Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Katie Ensweiler, and I'm the Senior Marketing Manager here at VonLehman CPA Advisory Firm. Big thank you to Charitable Advisors for partnering with us on this event. We couldn't have done it without them, and we're going to hear a few words from them at the very end of today's presentation. I also want to thank our three panelists, which you'll hear from in a little bit: Indianapolis Public Library Foundation, Tangram, and Foster Success. Now, before I turn it over to Tina, who is going to be our key presenter today, I do want to let you know that the presentation is being recorded. So if you do miss anything or need to jump off or jump back on, we will be able to capture anything that you may have missed. Also, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat feature. We'll get to them as best as we can. And if we cannot get to your question, I will be sending out a copy of the PowerPoint, as well as all of the contact information for our presenter and our three panelists in case you do have any follow-up questions. So with that, I will turn it over to Tina Dalton.
Hi, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. As Katie mentioned, my name is Tina Dalton, and I am an HR consultant with VonLehman. As you can see, the pretty slide here. My hair's not as curly today, but over the next 10 to 15 minutes, I am going to be sharing some insight into the top HR trends within organizations in 2023. But before we get into what's happening right now and trending for the year, we need to briefly review what has led us to this point. So if we all think back almost to the day 3 years ago when the world shut down, we went through a global pandemic. That's right. I'm sure all of us remember it a little all too well. That unprecedented time forced employers and employees to switch gears very quickly. We had to change new processes. We had to work with new technology. We had new work arrangements. And we had to do all those things at a record pace. Then a year ago, we were on the other side of the pandemic and quickly transitioned into the Great Resignation. This was brought about by the mind shift of employees and employers that values changed post-pandemic, both in the work, both outside of work. And we started to see trends of employees leaving for work-life balance, for more pay, for more time off, etc. And that brings us to today. The year of the employee is what they're calling 2023. So with current workforce shortages, there are more opportunities than there are employees and candidates. So my hope is that we will be able to give you a 10,000 foot view of what's going to help attract employees and also maintain the awesome talent within your group. So today we're going to be discussing compensation and total rewards best practices, employee wellness, and especially mental wellness, leadership effectiveness and development, and also change management strategy within the workplace. So with compensation and total rewards, they really go hand in hand. Total rewards is kind of that big umbrella that everything really falls underneath. So you'll see some stats on the screen here. The biggest thing with compensation is for 2023, the average raise for non-exempt or exempt individual contributors is 4.2%. Managers, it would be 4%, and officers and executives is 3.6%, making that an overall average of 3.9%. So thinking back to your organization, if you're going through annual reviews right now, if you're going to be doing that in the summer, what did you budget? This is what market is. So if you are above that, if you're below that, if you're right on point, this will help give you some guidelines as to what the industry is paying, specifically in the nonprofit sector. Another hot topic within compensation is pay equity and transparency. So pay equity, there's kind of two sides of the house to that. There's the internal side, and to effectively recruit and retain your employees, an organization, you have to have an internal equity where employees feel that they're being rewarded for their performance, their skills, and they're based off of their job requirements. So a great practice is to do compensation reviews at least every 2 to 3 years to see where is your internal workforce compared to what market's paying. Are there any adjustments that need to be made and what that might look like? And then with external pay equity, organizations, you also have to be aware of that, and that employers, you're competing for the same talent within the same labor force. So are you at market with your current positions, or if there is a new position coming down the road, what's that scale look like and what is market paying so you can be competitive in that sense? For total rewards, something that a few surveys have actually put out, and what Charitable Advisors will be giving you some information on later this summer based off of the survey, is what's driving employees to either stay with their employer or to look for new opportunities. So those top total rewards are kind of that extra outside of compensation perks that the company provides. The top one is health related. So whether that's personal insurance, it's daycare dependency programs, it's FSAs, it is mental wellness, which we'll talk about here shortly. What does the company provide to support them in that manner? The next are retirement savings options. So whether that is a 401k, a SEP, a 403b, what is the company providing to invest in them for their retirement down the road? And the others are flexible work arrangements. The in the office Monday through Friday is definitely a pre-pandemic, and post-pandemic, it's looking a little different. Is the employer going to be flexible with that? So those are kind of the main drivers that employers are looking for to either stay or leave an organization. And if you have this awesome total rewards package and you're doing all these things for your employees or potential employees, how are you sharing that? Are you communicating that with your employees? Have there been marketing campaigns? Have there been emails? Are you doing in your quarterly meetings? Are you sharing it out? And also, are you sharing it externally? Are you putting it on your company's page, what benefits you provide on your LinkedIn page? Are you doing LinkedIn posts or whatever it might be? You really want to think about how you're communicating that, because if an employee is looking at your organization and to join there, they're going to be doing their research. So you want to make sure that you have that front and center for them to be able to see. Next, we're going to talk about wellness and mental wellness. As I said, wellness is a big driver for employees to either stay or seek out new opportunities. And the last 3 years, it's really changed what that looks like in the workplace and how employees work. In 2023, a main focus for companies is wellness and mental wellness. So how do you create a workplace that supports that for their employees? So first things first is showing up for your employees. Leaders' empathy is a must-have. It's expected to be able to help employees cope with adversity, to feel safe to come to them if there are any issues happening, whether it's inside the workplace or outside of the workplace. By opening that dialogue, you're going to help create that trust so that when issues do arise, they feel safe to come to you or HR, whoever that might be in your organization. Now, you can't force employees to talk about their health, but what you can do is be prepared. You can be prepared with a set of questions that you have ready to go should those mental health conversations happen. You can ask anything about how it's impacting their work. Like, hey, Tina, I know you're an amazing project manager. Over the last few weeks, I've just seen maybe some things falling through the cracks. How can I support you? Is there anything that I can give, or anything that you need that maybe you're not getting? And that can open up to a conversation. EAPs are really big for organizations right now. That's employee assistant programs. A lot of organizations have them, but maybe they don't communicate or market them a lot to their employees. Some employees may not know that they're offered or really know what they're about. And they're about much more than mental wellness. They can provide financial planning assistance, creating wills, and a lot of other services. So you really want to think about how are you marketing that to your employees and sharing that benefit. Another trend that we're seeing, and I've personally helped create with some of my clients, is creating a wellness program, but not just for physical wellness, but for mental wellness. So they're starting to offer free or discounted subscriptions to mental wellness apps on their phone. And that can help with work-life balance, stress, and overall well-being. So it's very similar to like a gym reimbursement. A lot of companies are starting to look at that, since mental wellness is it's very top of mind for 2023. Next, we're going to talk about leadership effectiveness and development. So the response to the pandemic is that employers are empowering employees to use their knowledge and recognize out-of-the-box thinking. I'm sure most of you have heard the term upskilling. With the current workforce shortage, It's vital that we're focusing on giving managers and our leaders the tools to be most effective in their roles. Companies are looking internally for those next leaders, whether they're individual contributors or maybe they're just mid-level managers. How can we improve not just their soft skills, but give them the skills to be kind of that next generation of leaders? By empowering the current staff, it's going to be a win-win. The employee feels valued, they feel appreciated, they're doing more fulfilling work, they feel challenged. The company in return is going to get high performance, fresh perspective on future needs or future ideas, and it's going to deepen that bond between the employee and the employer to hopefully retain them long term. I'm sure you've all heard that employees don't quit companies, they quit bad managers. So by giving those managers the tools, whether it's soft skills or technical skills, whatever it might be, to really pour into them and invest to be able to lead those individual contributors, that's going to be crucial. According to a Manpower's group survey that they did at the beginning of this year, they reported that 57%, that's 57% of employees are pursuing training outside of work. So outside of their normal 9-to-5 employer, they are seeking additional training. So these workers largely feel that the company-led training programs either are non-existent or they're not providing the relevant skills that they need to help advance their careers or to help them stay competitive in the job market. I know where we used to say that skills learned more than 10 years ago are likely to be unuseful in the workforce, 10 years prior. But we're quickly approaching the point where anything that's learned a year ago will no longer be relevant. So continuous learning and upskilling are no longer the methods of just career advancement for the ambitious. They're now essential tools in career retention for everyone. So creating in-house training or career progression programs is becoming a lot more common. But if that's not an option for your organization, you can reach out to different organizations or programs that you can partner with to be able to use their tools to help develop your current staff and attract new employees. By looking in-house and upskilling, you're taking out the cost of hiring a new associate, onboarding them, training them, getting them up to speed. You have employees who have the skills, they have the knowledge of your organization. So by pouring into them with this training and development, again, it's that win-win that's going to help them progress in their career and ultimately help the company succeed. Now, change management. This is always near and dear to my heart. Why is it a top priority for 2023? So everything that I just shared with you, plus change fatigue. So change management is basically the vessel of all of these things that we've talked about and communicating the why behind them. So why is this going to benefit your employee or the company? How is it going to impact the employee? And communicating with the employees is going to make them feel involved. It's going to make them feel invested in the company. Now, change fatigue that I mentioned is basically being tired of feeling out of control. So thinking of the last 3 years, it was constant change. It was change outside of work. It was change inside of work. We're in office, we're at home, we're all on Zoom meetings like this. People are leaving, people are coming. It was just constant change, and employees are getting tired of that. So by creating that open dialogue and communicating any change that is happening, you're going to help take those stressors away. Pre-pandemic, a survey of how resilient employees were to change, 74% of employees were fine with change. They understood how it tied into the company. They were good with it. Post-pandemic, that number has dropped down to 38% of employees are okay with change. That's a big switch. That's a big change. So a lot of that comes to communication. So you can have the best project plan ever, but if you don't have a proper communication plan or change management plan in place, or change agents that are going to help you along with that success, it's not going to work. So if you think about the Google Maps analogy, so you have your starting point, you know where you want to get to, and it's a 20-minute commute. Life's not perfect. There's going to be a 4-car pileup. There's going to be detours. That's how a project works. So when you come into those spots where there's a 4-car pileup, that's where you need to have that collaboration. So you need to bring employees along. You need to have leaders along. You need to have change managers, change agents, or change champions along with you to think of other areas like, okay, how can we get around this? How can we address the issue, but still get to where we want to go? It may take, 10 extra minutes on your drive, but you're essentially going to get there and it's going to be a more efficient product. As far as change champions, these can be individual contributors. These can be your leaders. It can be top down. It can be your boots on the ground. These are individuals that can make or break a project or a change initiative or a new program rolling out. You can get feedback and use them in focus groups, in surveys, in day-to-day check-ins, different things. You just have to create that channel for communication to be able to effectively bring them in to the mission, bring them into the project, tie it all back in together and make them feel invested. And they're going to be a lot less resistant to change because they're going to understand the why and how it's going to benefit and impact them. Okay. So that was, I think I was right at 15 minutes. So I don't know if I can't see if any questions came through the chat. If they did, Katie will let me know. But now, what was that, Katie?
No questions so far.
Okay, I'm just so thorough. Great. We are going to hear from the panel now. So we have from Foster Success, we have Monica, we have Sam from Tangram, and then we have Roberta from the Indianapolis Public Library Foundation, and they're all turning on their cameras. Wonderful to see you all. So Monica, we are going to start with you. So with your organization, when you're thinking about benefits and compensation, how do you lead with equity at the forefront?
Thank you. So hello, everyone. My name is Monica Mala. I'm the COO at Foster Success. Just in general, a little bit about our organization. We work with young people between the ages of 14 and 26 who are aging out of the foster care system. We help them with everything from attaining their educational goals, workforce, basic needs, youth engagement. There's so much more, health and wellness, lots of things. But where lots of systems collide, child welfare and like education collide, and we're here to help young people navigate both of those systems. So it's really great work. It's rewarding work. We have a really great team, and we have over the last few years have really worked on our benefits and our compensation, a lot of our internal operations, and we've led with a lot with equity at the forefront. So some of the things that we did initially about 3 years ago, so right before the pandemic, we did, just like our host Tina said, we did a compensation analysis. And so prior to me, my predecessor hadn't had an opportunity to do that. So it was a really good time to dig into that. But along with that, what we did is we also did position reviews. We redid position descriptions so they were better aligned with what our staff were doing now. And then we did a lot of internal work, and we put together salary bands on positions. And that's really that wasn't necessarily something that we were going out and sharing with the public. It was really to hold us as leaders accountable for what we said we were going to do. And so we put those together. But just because we have salary bands does not mean that they stay the same every year. Just like Tina says, we review compensation. We actually do it annually. And we've had to, just because these last few years have been very different in the hiring and retention realm. And so we've taken it upon ourselves to review compensation annually. And then when it comes to benefits, we know that like physical, financial, and social constraints can really hinder some of our staff from being able to fully benefit from some of the benefits that we were offering. So we did a review of what we were offering to our staff, and an example that stood out was our short-term disability leave. It's great when you first come on, you can enroll right away, but if you enroll later, you had to do a medical check. And we were having people get denied for being on antidepressants or having a particular surgery or all of those things. And we just didn't find that equitable, and it didn't align with our core values. So we decided, okay, we're just going to take on that cost. We're going to do employer paid short-term disability. We're just going to get rid of the medical check. We're going to get rid of pre-existing conditions. We're just going to do it because we don't want our employees to lose their salary while they're out and needing to take care of themselves. And we don't want them to dig into their PTO because PTO is so precious. So we just decided to take that on. And then also hitting on Tina for the EAP program. We offer an EAP program. It's wonderful. Yes, it can offer lots of different things, but what we found is our employees weren't taking advantage of it. And because of the work that we do, our team members would go through some pretty heavy things with our young people, and they needed support right away. So we've taken it upon ourselves to work with funders and grant makers to try to hire on someone for our employees, not just for our young people, but for our employees. So when employees had a really tough interaction with a young person, and that's really getting them down, and you know, and then we definitely have some very tough interactions. They've got someone that they can talk to and be able to take care of themselves as a person right away. So these were some of the things that were really important to us when it came to looking at equity. And we started with compensation, and we did a deep dive into our benefits. And it's not just a one-time thing. That's, if anyone can take that away, it's an annual review because our employees are changing and their needs are changing.
Absolutely. I love that you look at compensation every year. That makes my heart happy. But it's especially the last, 3-5 years. I feel like it's been a constant figure it out and reshape it. Sam, we're going to go next if you want to do a brief intro, but I would love for you to tell us what innovative practices have you used to enhance your employee recruitment and retention efforts given the current workforce that we're in?
Great. It's great to be here with everyone. Again, my name is Sam Chris. I'm the Chief Executive Officer at Tangram. We are a disability services provider. We've been around since 1985, and we provide services in about 15 counties, mostly in central Indiana, and have about 200 employees in total. Again, we work and we partner with the community. We provide support services, supported employment for Hoosiers with intellectual and developmental disabilities, again, in about a 15 county area. So it's great to be here. It's great to share on this important topic. I think all of us, certainly in the nonprofit world, are trying everything to be competitive in this job market environment. And certainly nonprofits are always trying to be creative in attracting talent. One of the things I started with the organization right really in the middle of the pandemic, but early on our executive team made a decision to really invest in leadership development within the organization as really part of a retention effort for our leaders and managers, but also to help recruit leadership. So we actually launched a coaching initiative in July of 2021, where all of our, not only our executive leaders, but our director level leaders and our program managers who are really based out in our sites, we matched them with the certified leadership coach. And it was really a two-year pilot. We're about 18 months in. And, we really saw it as an added benefit whereby, maybe we weren't as competitive with other industries from a salary perspective, but having an executive coach is certainly a perk that we thought might help us attract some folks. And We were actually able to fund it through some endowment investment income dollars that we had set aside. And it was something that there was a little bit of resistance in the beginning. I don't think folks really kind of understood what leadership and executive coaching was, and how it kind of integrated into a supervision model. And so while there was resistance in the beginning, once we got it kind of kicked off, and we partnered with a great local coaching company here based in Indianapolis, all of the coaching conversations were confidential, which was a little bit of a change for us, in that a lot of our managers were nervous that what they shared with their coach was going to be shared with their supervisor, and that would potentially be used as a punitive type of thing. But all the coaching conversations with our managers and leaders are confidential. The only thing that's shared with us from an organizational standpoint were themes and trends. So for example, if our leaders were really struggling with crucial conversations, or if they were really struggling with time management, we were given that information so that we could kind of craft training around those themes that were kind of coming up organically through the coaching sessions. And it has really become really kind of integrated into our supervision and our leadership model at Tangram. We have an evaluation component. So there's a third-party evaluator who's looking at data that we're collecting that really kind of centers on, again, retention, the themes that are coming up, and there's an evaluation piece that people take when they start the coaching, and then 6 months in and a year in, that measures how they're doing with certain leadership skills. And we have already seen in the 18 months that it's been going, we've seen a significant increase in our retention of our senior and middle managers, but we're also seeing a dramatic decrease in turnover from their direct reports. So our frontline staff, which really make up about 85% of our workforce, that's really what we were trying to kind of pull the lever on, is how can we maybe use this initiative to not only impact our leadership, but also those frontline workers. How can we give them a better leadership and management experience from those that are in a supervisory role? So our midpoint data has been really positive. We'll wrap this up probably this summer, but it is something that we're looking to really do beyond the 2-year pilot. It's something that we really see as an added benefit, again, to the total compensation that we can offer at the professional level. So we're really excited about it, especially the initial results and how it's really kind of impacted not only, again, our senior leaders, but all the way down to our frontline workers.
I love that so much. Do you know off the top of the head, like what the numbers look like as far as the turnover, how it's reduced? Just curious.
Our frontline worker turnover has dropped about 15%.
That's
15
amazing.
to 20%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
We did get a few audience questions, so I'm just going to start with the first one. This will just be to all 3 panelists. Tina had shared average pay increase in market is about 4%. Any best practices or standards around incentive compensation or bonus, both general staff and in particular executive/CSO level?
I'm going to ask the panel. Roberta, Sam, or Monica, any thoughts around that?
Well, I don't know that this is a best practice, but I'll just share that at the Library Foundation, we use our bonuses pretty sparingly. And that is when, and this is not just for the executive, this is for all staff. But what we do is we will provide bonuses for staff. Usually, I mean, it's very much at the discretion of the organization management and our financial situation at the time. But when staff members go through and have a very perform during a rapidly changing or kind of a tough year, then we do consider that. So for example, if an employee steps up and takes on additional work while they are while a position is vacant. And this is not work that would actually change their nature of their responsibilities, but maybe they're doing more, like if it's a fundraiser, maybe they're working with a few more donors and that sort of thing. We might do a bonus in that situation. We have one person, we have a vacancy right now, and then we have a staff member who stepped up and helped basically fill in that vacancy in terms of supervising some new people. So that person got a bonus up front that they get as part of their paycheck while they're up to reward them for that. So we also did, we're fortunate because of the PPP loan and so forth in 2020 that we did give our employees a bonus for hanging in there during the pandemic. So that is really where we've used bonuses, and in my organization, and this I've advocated that we've used more bonuses to help the employee level. I mean, I'm an employee too, but people below me, I don't feel that I need a bonus. So that's basically what we do at the Library Foundation.
So I'll just echo what Roberta said. We also use bonuses sparingly. After the pandemic, we had some leftover pandemic funds that we were able to then use as bonuses, and same thing. You all went through it during the pandemic. You've helped a lot of young people. Let's see what we can do. And we did it for everyone across the board. And we use it very sparingly. And at the executive level, there are conversations about what that could possibly look like. But our CEO and myself, once again, we lead with equity first. We're not going to implement something for ourselves that we're not going to be able to then model or do something for our team members. So.
Okay, so we did have one more question in the chat, so I'm going to jump onto that really quick. Do you share the range with employees and how to justify where someone is within that range? Again, question to all panelists and Tina.
I can pop in on this because we just did this. So I'm actually really excited and proud of this. And by the way, I wanted just to share a little introduction first. So that my name is Roberta Jaggers, and I'm the president of the Indianapolis Public Library Foundation. And we are the not-for-profit fundraising arm of the Indianapolis Public Library. So the library is a municipal corporation. We are a separate 501c3, and we have about 8 staff members right now. So that's just and basically we raise money and we manage money, and that's what we do for the library. But we actually just went through a process where we did a compensation study. Before that, we just basically ballparked it based off of the salary study that we received from this group, and also from just some benchmarking data we were able to get from our PEO. But basically, we just did a salary study, and then we created a salary band for each position. And the salary band was built upon the 50% midpoint of that salary band was the median pay for the position, and then plus and minus 15% to have the upper and lower limit of the salary band. And then the next step was when we considered what adjustments were needed, we have a goal of employees reaching the midpoint of their salary band within 5 years of employment, because we want to reward longevity. So that's basically a 3% increase per year. So the way we did it is the way we looked at where they should be in terms of their compensation adjustment was, we said, okay, so-and-so is here. And if they had been in their position for this long, based on a 3% increase per year from the beginning of their salary band, they should be here. And then if they were lower than that, we were fortunate that we were able to, bring them up. And so we developed this methodology. And then we shared this with every staff member. We wrote them a memo. Here's your current pay. Here's how long you've been with the organization. Thank you for your years of service, your 2 years of service, your 10 years of service. Based upon where your years of service, here's where you should be in your salary band. And therefore, here's where you're going to be. And where people were above where they were in their salary band, or then we said to them, you're above where you should, you're above your salary band, or you're above where you want to be. So we're just going to leave your salary alone, but you'll be available for a raise next year. So every employee knows all of that about their position. And then they also know our general compensation strategy. So how we have salary bands, how we build salary bands, how we award raises. So raises are a function of our financial performance and ability to provide raises are a function of employee performance. So if they're a good performer or not good performer, and then it's a function of where they are in their salary band. So all things being equal, you're going to get a higher increase if you're below the midpoint of your salary band. You're going to get the next highest increase if you are in the upper half of your salary band. And then if you are above your salary band, which can happen if you're a longtime employee, we have a 20-year employee with our organization, or actually more than that, she's above her salary band, but she's still eligible for an increase, but that rate of increase just slows down. So I think I answered maybe your question and a couple extra questions. The other thing I'll just add, and then I'll let other people talk, I'll take a breath. But the other thing I'll say is that when we advertise positions, our methodology for that is to take the beginning of the salary band and then plus or minus whatever percent, I think 3%, 4%, something like that. And so if a person meets all of our minimum qualifications for the position, they get the midpoint of that range, which would be the beginning of their salary band. If we want to give them an opportunity, but they're not quite meeting all of our minimum qualifications, we'll give them a slightly lower, offer them slightly lower. And then if they are above our minimum expectations or qualifications, then we'll offer them a bit more to, recognize that. So that's how we use our salary structure and our compensation strategy. And that's how we communicate about that with employees and with new hires.
Thank you, Roberta. Sam or Monica, do you have anything to add to that question? That was in the chat. Same. Okay, no, that's perfect. And then Sam, can you just tell me, are there job market trends that you worried about or excited about available talent in your industry?
Yeah, we're kind of considered a quasi healthcare organization, and so we are really competing with a sector that, I was looking at some numbers from the Department of Workforce Development, and the healthcare industry is projected to be kind of the #1 grower of jobs over the next 10 years, and in particular home health aides and personal care aides, which is very similar to the level and type of frontline employee that we're recruiting for as well. We call them direct support professionals, but they're doing very similar work than a CNA and a home health aide would do. So, the competition, is forecasted to be it's so robust in that sector. And, because we're really dependent on Medicaid. That's our primary funder is Medicaid waiver dollars, which is obviously set by the state and federal government. So, we're unable to really adjust wages too much because it's really fixed. And right now the legislature is looking at a rate increase, which we're pushing for in this budget session. But it's really for us just about being competitive and how can we, again, attract folks when there are many more people, many more positions than there are people for the openings. I think last time I looked, we have about 25 open positions right now in that direct support professional level that we're trying to recruit for. So, it's a tough environment in the healthcare industry from a recruitment standpoint, especially when, you're dependent on, a government source like we are. We have to get real creative. And I think some of those other types of innovative ideas that you can add to your total compensation, are ways that we really try to, like the coaching initiative. We do have a recruitment bonus structure that we have. So, it's just something that I think we're going to have to pay attention to. I think in the nonprofit sector, organizations like us, we belong to an industry organization called NARF. And so we really rely on our industry association partners for trends to look at innovative ideas. We are looking to some other similar organizations at some possible cross-training and staff sharing of organizations that maybe don't do the exact work that we do, but that do similar work, that employ similar types of employees. We're talking to a couple of companies about maybe doing some staff sharing. So just trying to get creative and again, just stay aware of the landscape.
Perfect. It's ever changing for sure. So that's great. You're constantly thinking outside of the box. Are there any other audience questions before we kind of step into final thoughts from the panel?
No, there are not.
Okay. Monica, if you want to start us off with any additional thoughts that you'd like to share with the group on how your organization is tackling some of these HR trends or different initiatives for the year.
I think I'll just keep going back to this. It's just looking at it every year. And it can feel really redundant at times, but our job market is changing so rapidly. It's not even the same that it was 6 months ago, that it needs to happen, and it needs to happen often. And I just encourage you all to do a deep dive into all of your benefits and understand who's taking advantage of them. And do you see a trend in who is and isn't taking advantage of certain benefits? And if they're not taking advantage of certain benefits, are there bigger things to look at? Like if they're not paying into 401k, is it the compensation that's not allowing them to do so? Whatever it is. And then, I'll just put something out there. We just did this recently. We're adding caregiver leave to our benefits so that, once again, people don't have to dig into their PTO if they have an extremely sick child in the hospital or loved one or parent, because so many of our employees are, once again, different stages in their life, and we want them to be able to have that time to be able to take care of the people they love. So we do our best to try to take care of them.
Perfect. And Roberta, any final thoughts that you'd like to share out with the group?
One thing that we are doing this year is the Library Foundation is hiring a consultant to help us do a DEI audit. And there's lots of ways that we could approach a DEI audit, but we are focusing on is the experience of the employees and our board members. We know that we could also think about our donors and our relationships with our library colleagues and many other things, but we thought that the best thing to do is start with our inner circle. And so, one of the things that we're going to be looking at on the employee side are, review our handbook and our policies, and do we have we missed something? Is there something that's inadvertently disadvantaging a group of employees or potential employees that we could correct? We're also going to do some interviews with the staff, the consultant will, to identify, how included do people feel? Do they feel that they can be their real selves at work? Do they feel like they have to change who they are to be there? Do they feel like they're heard? So what we want to do is we hope to uncover several things we can do. And then our plan would be to integrate those items as action steps into future strategic plans. So my school of thought on this is, you can have a DEI plan, but with a group that is our size, we're 8 people, we don't even have a dedicated HR person on our staff. So we need to make sure that everything we do is really efficient. And so I think that integrating your DEI goals for staffing into your strategic plan is a really efficient way to do that, because it gives a lot more heft to your goals, and then you're only monitoring one plan instead of 2 plans. So, and I think that too, another piece of it that we do is we actually make the third part of our strategic, we usually have 3 goals in our strategic plan, and they're pretty evergreen goals. One is to have a great relationship with the library, align to their priorities, be a good partner to the library. Number 2 is obviously about raising money. And then number 3 is about creating a culture for our employees and volunteers where everyone can thrive. and what are the different initiatives that we're doing. And I think that has really helped me and our board and our team to focus on what can we do every year to improve our employee experience. And so I think that and I got a lot of great ideas on this call today. So I'm just so grateful to be part of this conversation. So just want to thank everyone for coming and wish everyone my very best as you continue to think about how you can do the best by your employees. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roberta. And Sam, any final thoughts?
I'll just kind of jump on what Roberta said about culture. If all else fails, if you have a healthy, positive workplace culture, you can overcome a lot of the obstacles that we kind of talked about. And we've invested a lot of time really throughout our organization in looking at our core 4 values and making sure that we have alignment from our frontline worker all the way up through the organization. And it's really helped. The DE&I work is so important. We're doing some training in that space right now with our workers. And if you have a welcoming, healthy workplace, it's a great foundation and start. So I just appreciate the opportunity to come and share a little bit and learn from others. So have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all 3 of our panelists, and to Tina for her presentation and for moderating the panel discussion. I am going to turn it over to Julie, who's going to say a few words about their survey.
Thank you, Katie. I'm Julie Struble at Charitable Advisors. And first of all, I want to extend a huge thank you to everyone who's completed the Central Indiana Nonprofit Salary Survey. I realize that a lot of you wear multiple hats, and being able to bring on an additional task to do is not an easy undertaking. So you have really encouraged me, and it's also just been encouraging to hear the thought that many of the organizations have put into completing the survey. Several of you have come back and said, hey, we met with our leadership team to validate the data prior to submitting this. So thank you. If you have completed the survey, you are going to be receiving the compensation report on June the 2nd. And I just want to let everyone know that the salary report is free to all nonprofits. This is just one of the ways that Charitable Advisors likes to give back to the nonprofit community. I will say, if you have not completed the survey, can you please do so? We're just looking for a handful of more organizations, and we decided to keep the survey open through tomorrow. So if you haven't taken it, I just put a website in the chat. If you click on that website, put the name of your organization in there, and you will receive an email with your organization's unique link. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, Julie at charitableadvisors.com, and be looking for the report in early June. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. And I'll be sure to include the link and Julie's contact information in the follow-up email that I send in case anybody does have any questions. But with that, looks like we're going to give everybody about 10 minutes left in their day. Thank you so much to Tina for her presentation, and to Roberta, Monica, and Sam for acting on our panel today. It was fantastic information, a great conversation, and we really appreciate everybody being here. And thank you to Charitable Advisors for their continued partnership. I hope everybody has a good rest of your day. Thank you.